Turn on the engine. Queen Camilla told the valet that there was no royal clearance or co-signature. She merely said she would give the Queen's limousine to her son. But as Sergeant Bainbridge got between the fender and the trailer and saw the name on the transport form, what he yelled stopped everyone in the garage. Before we show you the second, Prince William walked in. Camilla was able to say the last line, and as soon as the guard blocked the door with his body, make sure you are subscribed and have the bell icon switched on. Also, please leave a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from, because this wasn't just about a limousine. It was about the last place she felt like herself, and the one man who wouldn't let them take it away. There was a special type of silence in the Royal Vehicle Gallery at Windsor. Not the brittle calm of libraries or the hard stillness outside Buckingham. This was softer and older. The quiet of polished brass and silken rope. The hum of the climate control system keeps the leather from cracking. There was enough space between each automobile so you could walk between them without feeling crowded. Sergeant Aldrich Bainbridge walked through in the same way he usually did, with his boots exactly right and a gloved hand trailing once across the hood of a classic Daimler to check for dust that rarely ventured to collect here. He wasn't actually looking for dust. He was looking for change, action, or trouble. Private Kendrick tapped on the maintenance tablet behind him and frowned at something on the screen. Bay 6 needs to balance its oil reserves. Noted. Kendrick scrolled again and then stopped. Oh, and Camilla's son is going to see the 5D3 Phantom this afternoon. It only reads preview, so it's presumably for a magazine shoot or something. Bainbridge stopped moving. Did not turn. I just stood there, looking at the glass case that held the archival keys. What did you say? Kendrick looked up, unsure all of a sudden. The old Rolls 5D3 Phantom 4. The Queen's, Her late Majesty's. Someone wrote it down for a private showing. Finally, Bainbridge turned. Who wrote it down? Kendrick tapped the tablet a couple more times, his brow furrowing. Windsor Vehicle Services. This is the timestamp from this morning. Entry on mobile. No code. Just typed it in by hand. Aldrich Bainbridge had learned to be afraid of two things in 20 years of service: fire in a wooden wing, and having to manually override a digital logbook. He leaned out, snatched the tablet from Kendrick without asking, and looked through the request himself. There was only one line. Sparse. No route plan, no security form, and no driver assignment. Car ready for TPB. According to House Clarence, Thomas Parker B.S. Bainbridge's hand got tighter around the edge of the screen. The Phantom 4 has been in Vault 2 for more than 11 years. After the Queen died, it was taken out of the ceremonial rotation and put in a sealed class. Not retired, not given a new job, simply appreciated, and now someone had put it in line like a museum piece for Camilla's son to see. He gave the tablet back without saying anything. Kendrick seemed nervous now. Should I get the bay ready? No, Bainbridge said in a low, flat voice. No one touches it. He walked across the gallery to the security alcove, his boots clicking lightly on the polished stone. As he scanned his ID, the dark panel on the wall turned green. The archive records still showed the 1953 Phantom as static and sealed. Royal custodial clearance is needed, and yet someone had keyed a mobile override without telling anyone, signing it, or asking the right individuals. Bainbridge let out a breath through his nose. He didn't say anything. He merely turned and headed into Vault 2, because Legacy wasn't a display piece, and it sure as hell wasn't a hand-me-down. There was no echo in Vault 2. It absorbed sound like velvet absorbs light. Solid stone walls, insulated flooring, and soft pin lights above each platform. There was a little brass plate near the door that said Class of Legacy, only for royal usage. As Bainbridge went inside, the air surrounding him changed, nor colder, nor heavier, just quiet. There she was, the 1953 Rolls-Royce Phantom 4, long, low, and quiet in its corner, angled slightly so that its nose directed toward the curved glass wall, as if it had just stopped short of leaving. The black lacquer shone without becoming showy. The silver details were still shiny. The tires were cleaned once a month, and the pressure was checked twice a year. But the engine never started. No one has unlocked a door because they were too scared. As he always did, Bainbridge went around the edge of the car, boots straight and posture straight, as if the car could still feel the uniform. He came to a stop close to the back passenger door. The last time it opened, the Queen stepped out with two corgis on either side of her. She had gone to the hospital without telling anyone. The reporters didn't even know she was coming. That day she donned a dark green coat, put her hair up in a scarf, and didn't wear a brooch. Just the dogs, just the car, just her. It was her favorite way to show up unannounced, do quiet charity work, visit tiny towns, and make calls of condolence. Not the golden wagon, or the Land Rover with the Highland dirt. This one was not the same. The leather inside still had the scent of her lavender sachets, which was clean, subtle, and old-fashioned. Bainbridge had scented it during his last check, even though he had never touched the handle. The foldable vanity mirror had a slight lipstick mark on it. He took the laminated archive slip out of his breast pocket. 2 weeks after the funeral, Windsor's archivist wrote a single-line note with Prince William's initials in pen underneath it. The Queen's last working vehicle, on display, not to be moved. It wasn't a legal command. It didn't have to be. The archivist dubbed it posthumous etiquette, but Bainbridge always knew the truth. This car was the one item Her Majesty kept choosing in her last years, not because it looked good in pictures, but because it didn't. He proceeded to the front, bent down a little, and looked closely at the chrome trim under the headlamp. There was a little scratch under the edge that was an antique mark from a narrow cottage gate in Norfolk. The Queen had said no to buffing it out. When asked why, she answered, "It's mine. Let it maintain its thoughts." Bainbridge got up again. This wasn't a machine. It was a ship, a testimony, a memory so strong it had weight. And now someone wanted to put it on a trailer and take it somewhere for a picture shoot with Camilla's son. He thought, not yet, not while I'm still alive. He moved to the corner, looked at the lock on the outside again, and examined the digital seal log. Nothing has changed. No one had touched it yet. Noise wasn't the first hint of disaster. It was happiness. Ah, there he is. The voice was smooth, dramatic, and way too loud for a venue like Vault 2. As Thomas Parker B.S. stepped into the doorway, Bainbridge looked away from the wall panel. One polished shoe landed softly on the reinforced floor. He had a coat wrapped over one arm, and fashionable sunglasses tucked under the collar. In the other hand, he had a sleek leather-bound folio that was thick enough to look like it had real authority. Thomas stopped just short of the car and smiled. "I didn't think you'd be here in person. Not that I blame you. Isn't she a beautiful woman?" Bainbridge did not smile. "This area is off limits. I have the clearance I need." Thomas waved the folio around like a ticket stub. "Mom said yes this morning. A fast peek. Perhaps a little drive around the inner quadrangle. Nothing big. No press, no fuss." Bainbridge didn't say anything. He just put out his hand. Thomas thought for a moment, then laughed. "You guards." Still no creativity. He still gave him the folio, though. There were a few pages of general use documents inside, such as an overview of the archives, an inventory index, and photocopies of old transit orders. There was a printed document at the back with a digital signature from Clarence House that had been logged less than 3 hours earlier. There was no co-signature, no permission from the archivist, and no seal from the prince. There was only the line, "Ready for ceremonial activation, private family engagement, and TPB." Bainbridge put the folder down. "This paper isn't real." Thomas blinked. "I'm sorry. There is no permission from the custodial staff, no log for unlocking the vault, and no release from the heritage registrar. That's simply how the government works, isn't it?" Thomas's eyes sparkled. "We have the key. We have the key. Mom says it's okay." Bainbridge stayed still. "That key has been locked up since the Queen died." Thomas shrugged. "Well, now it's open." Bainbridge moved closer to the limousine until he was standing between it and Thomas. His voice kept steady. This automobile wasn't just another item on the list of things to transport. It was the Queen's personal vehicle for visits to her legacy. "It has been kept under class exhibition by order and respect." "Exactly," Thomas responded, his eyes shining. "And what better way to commemorate that legacy than to put it back on the road? Sergeant, we're not selling it. We're giving it a second chance." Bainbridge looked at him. "That car doesn't need a second chance. It has already finished its first." Thomas's smile faded. "Are you saying the Queen would rather see it rot in glass?" Bainbridge said. "I'm saying she left it here." And his voice got tighter. "And she didn't leave it for you." There was a little hush between them, but it lasted. Thomas shifted his weight and realized that the man in front of him was not a valet or a driver. He was something older, something that had been there for a long time. "Well," he responded, clearing his throat. "Don't make this hard. No matter what, we'll be bringing it out." Bainbridge didn't say anything, but he didn't move. It was no longer silent outside Vault 2 at noon. There were low murmurs echoing down the stone hallway. Aides, attendants, and clipboard bearers all came in a concerted wave that didn't seem like it was an accident. When Bainbridge stepped outside to look around, he saw the scene he had been dreading, a small procession with 2 Windsor aides, a private secretary in a dove-gray coat holding an iPad, and behind them, a valet in full ceremonial whites pushing a mobile polish cart with microfiber cloths and a can of chrome cleaner. "Excuse me," Bainbridge remarked forcefully as he stepped forward. "What's your permission here?" The valet stopped moving, the cloth halfway to a mirror. The secretary didn't even blink. "According to the Queen Consort's order, the 1953 Phantom is being readied for a private assignment. Documentation is already filed." "Where did you file it?" "Records from Windsor." She pointed to the tablet in her palm. "Show me." The woman paused for just long enough to show that she couldn't. Then, from the archway behind her, a voice she knew cut through the air, calm, clipped, and sure. "Let the man do his work." As Camilla came in, the crew moved out of the way. She wore a cream coat, leather gloves, and a scarf tied in a pretty fashion. But her eyes weren't gentle. It looked like she was going for a walk. They had a sharpness that didn't go with her clothes. She strolled right up to the Phantom, her heels making no noise on the stone. She didn't gaze at the car with nostalgia. It was like she was thinking about where it would fit best in her calendar. "Still beautiful," she whispered quietly, running her gloved hand over the car's shiny surface. "Charles always said it should be seen again." Bainbridge did not move. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, this vehicle is not in use and is protected by static legacy." Camilla's focus didn't change. "That's exactly why I'm here. It's being given to someone else for family events. Thomas will use it next month for charitable tours in Windsor. The Queen would have liked it. She never gave it to him." Camilla turned around, raising one eyebrow slightly. "I don't need her signature, Sergeant. I need mine, and I have given it," he said, "not on the record. The heritage log doesn't have a signature from any known custodian." Camilla smiled a little and tilted her head. "Then this is your notice." He stayed still. "With all due respect, Mom, you're not in charge of the archives." Her voice got cold right away. "And who would that be?" "Prince William," Bainbridge replied quietly, "and the royal registrar under him." The pause that came after could have broken glass. Camilla's smile didn't go away, but the edges of it got harder. She pointed to the valet and said, "We'll take care of this soon. Would you please polish it right? There is way too much dust around the doorframe." Bainbridge's voice got sharper. "Stand down." The valet stopped in the middle of the street, torn between two orders. Camilla's eyes turned to him. "Excuse me?" Bainbridge didn't shout, but every word hit like a hammer. "All handling is on hold until we get confirmation from the archives." Camilla let out a soft, disbelieving laugh through her nose. "You're not kidding." He didn't say anything. She moved closer and spoke in a deep, royal voice. "Sergeant Bainbridge, you're being stubborn, not consistent." Camilla leaned in a little. "You'll see that there's a difference." Her gloved hand hovered above the hood, showing just the smallest hint of rebellion. "This car will leave Windsor," she remarked calmly, "with or without your blessing." Bainbridge's answer was calm and collected, and the Queen respected it. The lights in the vault hummed softly above them, but no one moved, not the valet, who was still holding the polished cloth and was frozen in place, not the aides who were standing at the end of the hallway, unsure whether to move closer or back away, and not Sergeant Aldrich Bainbridge, whose boots stayed 2 steps in front of the limousine, as if he were part of the stone under him. Camilla was the only one who did anything. She walked gently in front of the Phantom once, lightly caressing the side mirror with her fingers, as if to show that she was still in charge. Her voice seemed deceptively nonchalant. "I get how you feel, Sergeant. Yes, but it can't get in the way of function." Bainbridge did not answer. "This car has a past." "Of course it does, but it also has possibilities, and just in case you forgot, the royal family isn't there to honor the past. We stand for continuity. This car will serve the crown again." He didn't even blink. It was closed. Camilla turned with an eyebrow lifted. So Bainbridge came forward, not to fight, but to be calm. It was sealed after her death by Her Majesty's registrar, who gave the order verbally and had the archivist sign it. Prince William also looked it over. "Looked over," Camilla said again. "You mean sentimental nonsense that people tell each other like stories?" Bainbridge responded. "It's logged in the Legacy Vault, line 14C, static class custodial lock." She shook her head a little as she was talking to a child who wouldn't listen. "That lock is optional, and I've now given the go-ahead to release it. Your signature isn't in the system." Camilla's lips become thinner. "I don't need to sign systems. I speak for the king." "No, Mom." "Bainbridge, you talk like the Queen Consort. There is a distinction. The king hasn't signed it either." That finally made her stop. Thomas came back behind her and stepped closer. holding his folio more tightly. "Hey, this is getting out of hand. Mom just wanted a car that meant something to her. A bridge that can be seen. A continuation. She didn't pick it, Bainbridge." "Excuse me," Bainbridge said again. "She didn't choose it. The Queen did it over and over. Not for show, not for cameras, but for quiet labor and thinking." Camilla stepped in again. "That thought ends here. We can't grow if we tie everything to memory. This automobile has been sitting still for more than 10 years. Bainbridge's voice got harder as he replied. That silence was hers. Camilla's body became stiff. "You're getting in the way of a decision made by a sovereign. You are using a sealed legacy in a new way, but you don't have a chain of custody." She looked at him. "You've lost your place," he stated. "My place is between memory and misuse." Thomas broke in again, angry. "This is crazy. By morning you'll have a new job. Mom is in charge." Bainbridge's tone stayed the same. "Then you'll have to sign it on a royal broadcast, where everyone can see it. Let's see how people feel about you giving away the Queen's last private car like it's an auction item." Camilla's eyes narrowed. "You're walking on very thin ice." Bainbridge's voice got quite low. "And you are the one who is walking across it." The vault stopped moving again. Things had changed. Not the balance of power, but the balance of permission, and it was about to break. The valet was the first to make a mistake. He might have felt the stress was over. Maybe Camilla's silence made him feel like he could do it. Or maybe he was just too young to understand what silence actually meant. But as he reached for the fob, which was carefully tucked away in the silk-lined tray, it was as if he had set off a silent alarm in the room. Bainbridge moved forward right away. "Stop." The valet stopped, his fingers about an inch from the lid. Camilla didn't respond right away. She was staring at the car's hood again, her lips tight, as if she were trying to figure out how far she could go without causing something that couldn't be fixed. "Start the engine," she said without turning. Bainbridge made his way from the valet to the tray in one slow step. "Stand down." The valet seemed scared now. "Ma'am," I said, "start the engine." Camilla said it again, this time more firmly. "Don't touch that fob." Bainbridge's voice was strong, and he looked straight at the young man. "You'll be breaking a Class 2 custodial rule." Camilla's voice got sharper. "This is a shame." And that was when Bainbridge ceased being quiet. His voice got louder, but not too loud. It was clear, sharp, and loud enough to bounce off the vaulted roof of the room like a thrown gauntlet. "What's wrong is stealing the only car she chose to get there in silence." Everyone halted. The hallway, even from away, seemed to be still. The aides stopped in their tracks. The valet stopped moving, with his hand in the air. One of the Windsor attendants turned all the way around, as if to make sure they had heard what they had just heard. Camilla blinked because the sound, clarity, and full certainty of it all threw her off for a moment. Bainbridge didn't speak more quietly. "That engine hasn't turned since the Queen got out of it last time. That chair still has the mark of a woman who ruled without needing a crowd. You want to give your son that leather smell like it's a decorative antique. It's hers." Thomas stepped forward, shaking. "You've gone too far." "No," Bainbridge said sharply, turning to face him. "You did when you touched her key." For a moment, Thomas appeared bewildered, stuck between feeling entitled and what was genuine. Camilla got better quickly. She moved closer, and her voice was colder than before. "Don't forget who you're talking to." "No, Mom," Bainbridge answered, looking her straight in the eye. "You forgot who she was." After that, there was complete stillness. It was as if the security lights above the car didn't want to show what had just happened since they were dimmer. Camilla looked at the valet again. "Get the folder," she ordered in a stern voice. "Now." But no one did anything. Thomas paused. His lips split as if to protest, but he couldn't seem to find the correct words. Bainbridge wasn't in front of an automobile. He was in front of a ratio, and he was no longer alone. There were footsteps coming down the hall, not rapid or loud, but footsteps that were firm, decisive, and definitive. They slowed down as they got to the archway. There was no fanfare, no announcement, and no escort in uniform. A solitary person walked inside Vault 2. They were wearing a black wool overcoat and soft leather shoes, and their face was unreadable. William the Prince. The room changed right away. All of the aides stood up straighter. The valet looked down. Even Camilla's body language changed, but she instantly relaxed her face. William saw everything at once. Bainbridge standing next to the Phantom, Thomas holding the leather folio with both hands, and Camilla poised somewhere between anger and retreat. At first, he didn't say anything. He just strolled slowly and calmly past the series of brass display tags and velvet cords, stopping right next to the Phantom's front left fender. "Sergeant Bainbridge." "Sir, what's going on?" Bainbridge didn't move. Unscheduled attempted extraction of the 1953 Phantom 4. Though there is no registered authority from the Windsor Archive, the Queen Consort's office said they had verbal clearance. I stepped in. William nodded once, and then looked at Camilla. Did the council talk about this? It took her too long to answer. It was suggested in a casual way. I acted in the king's trust. William didn't argue with the words, but he didn't agree with them either. There is no record of a release, no notice of conveyance, and no media schedule. This automobile is sealed for life. Thomas stepped in, as if he wanted to get back what he had lost. It's not for show, only for a few events. Charity appeal for the country. Mom thought it may offer a message of staying the same. Finally, William looked at him. And that message needs this car. Thomas thought about it for a second. It's important and familiar. People remember it. William's face stayed the same. They know who was in it. Camilla moved forward. It's been sitting there for more than 10 years without being touched. What good does it do to be locked up? William glanced directly at her without saying anything. It serves the truth that not everything is meant to be reused. There was a quiet heartbeat between them. Camilla's jaw moved, but she didn't say anything. William looked back at Bainbridge. You did the right thing. After that, he looked at the other staff members. Write down this try. Put an incident note in Vault 2. Heritage disturbance sign. Mark the entry as non-transferable. He walked over to the vault wall, where the biometric panel was waiting quietly. He didn't look at his own hand. Instead, he pointed at Bainbridge. Close it, Sergeant. Bainbridge moved right away. He walked over to the vault's internal panel, typed in his code, and adjusted the protection level back to sealed class, non-mobile. The light on the screen went blue. The room was filled with the soft hiss of the locks clicking into place. William spoke again after the sound faded. Lower now, but still strong, he added, without looking at Camilla. If the king wants to challenge the seal, he can bring it before the full custodial council. Then he stopped for a moment, which made it clear. But until then, this car stays. William stayed still. He stood next to the locked vault with his hands loosely clasped behind his back. His stance was upright, but not over the top. He wasn't here as a soldier or a son. He was here to testify. Camilla's face had turned to stone. She raised her chin, yet the way her voice sounded showed that she was trying to be calm. I don't think, she replied slowly, that putting history behind closed doors is how we honor it. William turned his head. And I don't think changing the name to make it more relevant is how we keep it. Beside her, Thomas moved around awkwardly. It's a car, he said in a low voice, but not low enough. We're not going to melt down the crown jewels. William turned around. His voice was steady. This car isn't just a machine. She picked it last. The one she used when she didn't want to be formal. When she wanted to come, not show up. Camilla crossed her arms. You're confusing feelings with policy. William answered quietly. No, I am following orders. He walked slowly and carefully around the Phantom once, then stopped at the back door. He looked at the chrome handle, and then his eyes moved up to the small smudge on the glass that was still there from that last drive. He said, She didn't give us a written order. She left behind something harder, self-control. Camilla moved forward. You're keeping something safe, William said. I'm protecting a boundary between remembering and taking advantage. Thomas opened the folio one last time and held it out like a gift of calm. Everything is signed. Mom said that was okay. William didn't even look at the pages. Not everything that is signed is done. He looked at Bainbridge. Bring back the ceremonial seal. Bainbridge nodded, took the case with the velvet lining from the display wall, and walked to the front of the car. He carefully unfurled the gold-braided rope and clipped it across the top of the Phantom's hood. It was a symbol, but it was also true. He put the crested plaque in the middle. Class of legacy, not in use. William looked at the staff who were gathered along the hallway. This car will stay sealed until further notice. All attempts to transfer should be flagged and reported right away. Camilla looked at him for a long time. At last, though, her voice becomes softer. You're making a point. William looked her in the eye. Yes, you were. A break. Then she turned on her heel and left without saying another word. Thomas stayed behind. He stared at the automobile again, then at Bainbridge, and then back at William. Do you really think she would care? William's answer was silent. I don't think I remember. Thomas didn't say anything. He walked down the hall behind his mother, his steps a little faster than before. Bainbridge stood next to the car without saying a word. William didn't stay long. He nodded one more time to the sergeant, and then to the aides who were still watching. He said, If the king has any questions, send them to me. And then he departed, just like he came, without fanfare or warning, but with every choice made. As the last pair of footsteps receded down the hall, the lights turned off by themselves. Vault 2 was still again. Bainbridge stayed for a bit longer, alone under the amber light, his hands folded behind his back. His quietness wasn't normal. It was recollection and weight. He silently walked up to the front of the Phantom and stooped down by the grille. He didn't touch it. He just looked at it, one last time before returning to his patrol. The car remained locked in place, its leather still smelling faintly of lavender. The faintest reflection of the Queen's last unannounced visit remained visible in the glossy black lacquer. The legacy was secure, as it had been for more than a decade. Bainbridge straightened and walked out of Vault 2, his boots echoing lightly on the polished stone. The light on the security panel dimmed back to green, signaling that nothing had been moved, and that the status remained unchanged. Outside, the aides and valet waited, unsure if they could speak. Camilla left quietly without looking back. Thomas followed more slowly, and the hallway emptied, and in that silence, there was only the hum of the climate control system in Vault 2, protecting the car, protecting the past, and keeping the Queen's choice untouched. Pulled a little item wrapped in cotton out of his inside breast pocket. Inside was a pressed lavender sachet that the staff at the Windsor Archive had created. It was just like the one the Queen had kept under her seat for more than 20 years. Bainbridge didn't say anything, as he put it in the little storage drawer inside the driver's door and hid it behind the steering column. Then he went to the back. He carefully opened the door for the passenger. There was no creak, just the quiet sound of air escaping from leather that hadn't felt warmth in more than 10 years. The interior still had her. It wasn't just the perfume, or the mark on the armrest, or the small scuff on the floor mat from her riding boot. It was her presence. There was a perfectly folded tartan scarf on the seat. It wasn't Bainbridge who put it there. It had always been there. The staff never relocated it. He carefully picked it up, folded it tighter, and put it in the glove box next to a crested notebook and an unused royal pen. He then closed the door carefully and with respect. It clicked shut with a sound that made it feel like the end. Nor heavy, nor sad, just right. He took the ceremonial tag out of the sealed case and put it on a velvet backing with an engraved brass plate. Then he used a transparent archival band to attach it to the steering wheel. Do not use. Memorial for the past. Seal of the custodian. Archive of Windsor. William, the Prince. As he started the lockdown routine again, the digital panel on the vault wall blinked green. One hiss, one click. The room became quiet again. No one was waiting outside the viewing glass. Camilla was no longer there. Thomas still hadn't come back. The helpers had left. There was no press, no announcement, and no sound. There was only one man, one car, and one absence that nonetheless changed the air. Bainbridge walked around the Phantom one last time, slowly, evenly, and with respect. He stopped, turned around, and flipped the main vault switch as he got to the door. The lights in the gallery went down to their normal level. The Phantom sank farther into the dark. The shine of its frame is now more of a hint than an actuality. It didn't need to be looked at. It just needed to stay. He went down the hallway and shut the vault door behind him. A soft mechanical lock clicked into place with a muffled thunk, and then everything was quiet again. A solitary aide walked down the hall without looking at him. No one spoke, and no one attempted again. Would you have let the limo go? Did Sergeant Bainbridge have the right to yell? If you were Prince William, would you have gotten involved sooner? If you think legacy should be quiet instead of loud, hit that like button immediately. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell symbol so you don't miss any stories they want to keep behind royal gates. If you know someone who still remembers the Queen behind the glass, send them this video. Also, look at the other articles on your screen right now. See you tomorrow.